Good afternoon, morning, or evening, friends, fans, people that don't know me yet. My name is Brooke Nieswander, and I want to welcome you to Starstruck Parenting. It's January 1st, 2022, and I want to talk to you today about something that it's a hard subject. It's a really hard subject for most parents. It's one I lived through, and it's being an absentee parent. Most parents do not want to go through this. And normally, I do realize that an absentee parent can be both the mother or the father, or either or, I should say. But I'm going to speak from the point of an absentee father, because that's what I was for a period of time, right? If you guys have seen my earlier episodes, you will know that I met my son. He was a year and a half old. He lived with me for 6 months, and then he was out of my life for 4 years, right? During that time, I realized that I was absolutely no use to him as a father. And instead of going and trying to fight right away to get him back, even though the court documents and everything were on my side, what I did is I went and I got some help. I went and got some help for my addiction issues. I threw myself into treatment. I got my life together somewhat. And the reason I'm bringing this up now is because the first time I threw myself into treatment, the first time I went and had this revelation that I was of no use to my son as a father, the way I was, that was in December of 2009. Okay, so we're 11 years, 12 years, 11 years after that now. But in 2009, that decision was hard. That was easy for me to throw myself in to go get help, because like I said, I knew I was of no use to him as a father. But for me, I want to fight for what I think is mine, or what I think is right. I think it's more what I think is right than anything else. And knowing that my son was supposed to live with me, and then all this stuff went on, that was hard to put aside. And I through some help and some people helping for me to see things, we got through December and into January, and we came into the new year. And I had been clean and sober for a little while. I started working, and it was very humbling. Let me tell you, I went from being a chef or working in high-end restaurants to, it was suggested that I take a job at a Tim Hortons. And I went and I worked at the Tim Hortons, and I brought the excellence that I bring to any profession, any job, any business. I brought that there, and so it was very, very humbling for me, and it was a huge learning experience. But one of the things that happened is I started to make some money. Okay, it wasn't a lot of money, but I reached out to my son's mom and I said, "Hey, I want to pay you child support." There was no orders in place. I was living in a recovery house. I was basically on welfare, getting off of welfare, starting to work. And there was no need legally for me to do that. But the right thing to do was to be a responsible absentee father, and to try to pay my portion of my son's needs. And the response that I got was, "Hey, screw you. He has a dad now. We're living in another province, blah, blah, blah." A bunch of it was BS, probably. Some of it was anger, but I reached out and I made that effort. And in the time that I worked, and later on I worked in that recovery center that I got sober in, one of the things that I found is so many dads, especially, right? And I hate to say it, but it's true, most men have a higher earning potential than women. We end up doing different jobs that maybe pay us more. Now, I'm not saying a woman can't make as much as a man. I've known many women who've made far more than men, and it's a different kind of tough for them, because it's hard for a man's ego to deal with that. But the tendency that most men have is they'll be off, they'll be out in camp, they'll be working, they'll have their children every second weekend, or maybe even every weekend. Or the worst that I saw was the Disneyland dads that showed up, took their kids out for a weekend, bought them all this stuff, and then disappeared, right? And so what it does is it lets that child believe that daddy loves them more, or mommy doesn't love them as much, because they're not buying them the stuff. And I want to address that, right? Buying your kids stuff does not equate love. I'm sorry, it doesn't. In our society that we have nowadays, everybody has tried to propagate this idea that consumerism is the way to show love. And I'm sorry, but it's the least important way to show love. Yes, you know what? Make sure they've got food, a roof over their head, and they've got clothing. But buying them crap just to buy them crap so it sits in a corner, or for that 5 minutes of gratification, that's not love. But what you should do if you're that dad, okay, and if you find yourself in this position that you are buying your kids stuff and it's creating that imbalance, because you got to understand that your child has to live with the primary caregiver 90% of the time. So what you should really do is give that person the money to buy the gifts, or buy the gifts and give them to her or him to have them give to the child. Now, I know this is counterintuitive and it goes against any form of our beliefs of being great parents, great dads, great moms, right? We want to be like, hey, look at me, look at me, look at me. And that's not what our kids need. Our kids need to know that where they are is safe and stable and loving. That's the most important part. So if you want to be a good parent and you can't be there, try this. And I'm going to tell you, it's going to do a couple of things. One, your child is going to feel better. They're going to feel more stable. They're going to feel more loved. Now, that doesn't mean you can't go and buy them something and you can't give them a gift. But I'm saying make sure that the majority comes from the primary caregiver. The other thing it's going to do is it is going to create a much better relationship between you and your ex-partner. That's an important thing, right? If you and your ex-partner get along well, even if you are not together, you have no intentions of ever getting back together. If you and that person can connect, it is always better for the kids. One of the worst things I see is parents fighting and putting the kids in the middle, right? Because I'm going to tell you, no matter what's going on between you and them, and by them I mean your ex-partner, that child is half you and it's half them. And so if you are bad-mouthing your ex, that child hears that they're half bad. And we got to stop that. We need to rise above that. We need to make sure that our children know that they are all good, that they are all wonderful beings, that they are loved, and that we're here to take care of them. It doesn't matter where the gifts come from. It doesn't matter where the new shoes come from. It does not matter, as long as they get them, right? As long as they're the ones that are receiving the blessings, it doesn't matter. Now, who knows? Maybe that ex of yours is having a hard time keeping the roof over their head. And you saying, hey, you know what, I'll help you out with that, instead of us buying a bunch of gifts for my son or my daughter. Maybe that's going to help out way more in the long run. Now, I do want to put in a caveat here, because I do understand there are a lot of exes, men and women both, that they will blow the money that they're given on themselves, and it doesn't get to the child. And this is where I say, hey, buy the gifts, buy the things, buy the clothes, and then give them to the other party to give to your child. Being an absentee parent is hard. It's really, really, really hard. I had to be an absentee parent for 4 years, and in those 4 years, I was told no. I couldn't be an absentee parent. I tried to stand up. I tried to take care of my son. And then when my son came back into my life and I had him on weekends, the first thing I did is I started paying child support. I was paying twice whatever the calculator said that I would have had to owe because of the amount of money I was bringing in. I was paying double. Why? Because, A, because I wanted to make up for it. 2, because I wanted to make sure that he was taken care of. Now, my ex, I can't even tell him my ex, my son's mom, because we were never together. My son was a product of the summer fling. I know my son's mom blew that money. My son didn't get anything from it, really. But I was trying to do the right thing. And so when things changed, like I went from being an absentee father to a having my child on weekends to full-time dad when his mom tried to kidnap him, when the court decided that he should live with me. If you are just popping into this and you're hearing this story and you're like, whoa, go back and watch episode 1 because it tells all of this. I gave an introduction to me, my life, my family, everything. So, but I went through all the stages. And then eventually I was a single dad for 5 years with absolutely no input, no help from my son's mom. She made a couple efforts at contact and then just broke his heart. So I had to basically shut that down. I put it in a situation. I said, you know what, you need to show consistency. I said, talking about support, I said, figure out what you can afford to pay in child support. I don't care what it is, I don't need the money, but figure out a number and then pay it to me consistently for 6 months. You do that, we'll set up contact and visitation, you name it. I'm open to that, but you need to show me that you can be consistent, because every time I let you into my son's life, you break his heart. Period. Because as parents, our job is to protect our children. Our job is to teach them how to be good men and women. We need to teach them how to stand up for who they are, how to have faith in themselves and faith in the people around them that they invite into their lives. That is our job as parents. And so, I've been through the gambit. I've been on both sides of the fence. And if you are an absentee parent right now, if you're an absentee mother, you're an absentee father, I urge you to step into that role. Show up. Be consistent. And I will tell you, this I know for sure, is the universe will provide you opportunities to support your children. The universe will provide you those opportunities to be with your children. First, you got to show that you can support them. Now, it doesn't have to be big. What our children need is consistency. They need to see that we are there day in and day out when they need us and even when they don't. Because one day your kids are going to grow up and they're going to know that mom was there, that dad was there. They're going to know that even though they didn't need to, they could have called you at 3 o'clock in the morning and you would have been there. That's what your kids need. That's what my kids need. Now, I don't mean to preach to you. I don't know your situation, but I'm going to tell you that I came from a pretty shitty situation and I turned my life around, and I have an amazing life today with wonderful children, a wife, and a house, and dogs, and stuff I didn't think I would ever have. And if you're sitting in a place right now, it's the beginning of the new year, and you're sitting there and you're going, man, I got nothing. I'm on a shelter bed. Been there. I'm on mattress in an apartment with no furniture. Been there. I don't know what I'm going to eat next week. Been there. Let me tell you that you can rise above any situation you are in right now. And you can change the path you're on. You can bring it all together and be the mom or the dad that you want to be, that you always thought you should be, but for whatever reason, didn't know how. If you need help, reach out. There's lots of people out there to help you. You can reach out to me. I'm happy to coach you and talk to you, see if I can, give you a little bit of insight, a little bit of guidance. Why? Because I love helping parents to become better. That's why. So guys, I am going to leave you now with a blessing that your 2022 shows you new paths and takes you on a new journey of love and acceptance and walking into your power as a parent. It's going to be a good year. From my heart to yours, I love you. Talk to you next week.